Character arcs in Cobra Kai have been interesting, with some villains turning into heroes and vice versa. However, certain characters, like John Kreese, have always been antagonists from the moment they first appeared on television. Sam and Daniel LaRusso, on the other hand, could be viewed as unassuming villains. Some people are being molded to become villains if they aren't guided in the correct route, like Kenny from Season 4 did. So let's take a look at the top 10 villains from Cobra Kai, ranked. Coming in at 10th place, Johnny Lawrence. The villain who isn't actually a villain is Johnny Lawrence. He may be strict with the kids and frequently rude, but he really is just a troubled man who is struggling with his own issues. It's difficult to criticize Johnny because he is merely doing his best. Since Johnny has behaved more like a hero than a villain in this program, he ranks at 10th place, even though he is still a villain on Cobra Kai. At the 9th spot, Sam LaRusso. Fans seem to particularly enjoy hating Sam since she is so close to being cool. She is a young girl who tried to follow her heart but kept getting hurt. She didn't want to follow in her father's footsteps. While her father can't seem to be constant enough to be there for her when she really needs him, she must watch as other individuals she loves suffer emotional and physical harm. Is it surprising that the LaRusso children experience some volatility when you consider how they have developed? Next up, Kyler. Kyler, a tall, attractive, athletic young guy who appears to have a natural flair for karate, is your standard high school bully. But he made the most of every chance to rile up an enemy, pick fights, and generally be unpleasant and rude whenever possible. In fact, it was Kyler's harassment that inspired Miguel to start learning karate so he could protect himself against the bully. Additionally, Kyler's character is quite similar to Johnny Lawrence from the first Karate Kid movie in that he is well-off, well-liked, and has a low regard for anybody who might stand in his way. Coming in 7th, Eli, aka Hawk. Eli's character development throughout the show was noteworthy. He went from being the quiet, bookish boy that everyone teased and bullied to becoming an arrogant bully who actually hurt his former classmates. However, one thing you should keep in mind is that by the end of Season 3, Eli had returned to Miyagi-Do and was back to his old self. Eli was one of the major heroes of Season 4 after experiencing bullying once more and ultimately developing the confidence to stop hiding behind tattoos and colorful mohawks. Having said that, taking a broad view of the entire series, Eli committed some appalling crimes while under the alias Hawk, so he certainly deserves to be on this list. Coming in 6th, we have Robbie Keane. Now, Robbie's inability to trust others is understandable given the way both his mother and father have come and gone from his life. The guy is still incredibly stubborn, much like his father, and even links up with some despicable characters to spite the ones who are attempting to love him. Even if Robbie didn't plan to hurt Miguel, the fact that Miguel extended a hand of kindness rather than hitting him, and Robbie took advantage of the opportunity to take another swing, is reason enough for us to have no faith in him at all. Coming in 4th is Tori. In Seasons 3 and 4, viewers learned more about Tori's past, and Amanda appeared to be understanding her. That being said, Tori, one of the Cobra Kai's best fighters, has a large chip on her shoulder that has taken some time to start wearing down. In their epic battle, she was needlessly nasty, purposefully did things to harm others, and left Mary with intense bodily scars. In the 4th season, Mary did begin to act in a malicious manner. She was never close to having the same level of animosity as Tori did, which showed in her torturing actions, landing her on this villain's list. At the 9th spot, Anthony. Interestingly, Anthony played a bigger part in the plot in Season 4, despite playing a much smaller part in the previous 3 seasons of the show, only occasionally appearing and mostly being seen playing video games in the background. It turns out that he and his friends bullied a little boy named Kenny who had just started school. Anthony's pals believe he understands karate, but he has never expressed an interest in practicing, choosing to act like a pampered rich child instead. He went along with some of the things he was doing to Kenny, even though it was obvious that he felt awful about them for the sake of his reputation. Taking the 3rd spot is Chozen. Chozen isn't the Karate Kid's most proficient fighter, but he's also not a pushover. Although he is more talented than Johnny Lawrence, Mike Barnes was undoubtedly a cut above when it came to assessing Daniel's interactions with him. Chozen's desire for vengeance makes him even more violent, to the point that he vowed to murder Kumiko in order to challenge Daniel LaRusso to a duel to the death. After many years, Chozen finally made amends with Daniel and may even have contributed to the downfall of Cobra Kai. However, while not being directly linked to Cobra Kai, we also can't ignore the fact that in The Karate Kid 2, he actually tried to kill someone. Next up, Terry Silver. One of the Cobra Kai series' most despised characters is Terry Silver, Thomas Ian Griffith. He occasionally commits horrible crimes, including those in the new Cobra Kai franchise and the Karate Kid series. Terry shows manic behavior despite being one of the best fighters, most likely as a result of his heavy cocaine use. He tends to damage others in order to get what he wants, as evidenced by the way in which he injured and nearly killed his longtime friend Stingray. And finally, taking the #1 villain spot is none other than John Kreese. John Kreese appears to be fundamentally evil. He is a cunning, self-serving man who has little regard for the students he instructs. He simply wants to triumph at all costs so that he can establish himself as the best. He is prepared to cause people both physical and psychological pain. He will also never let someone live it down if he does anything kind for them, as he did for Terry during the war. Although it appears that John's behavior is a result of his rough upbringing and the trauma he went through during the war, this does not justify his horrible actions. Now, we thought it would be interesting to also include some of the OG Karate Kid villains. First up, Mike Barnes. One of the only people Daniel LaRusso acknowledged to be terrified of was his most proficient foe. In addition to being a dreadful human being, Mike Barnes was also more or less an enforcer who was subject to the orders of Terry Silver and John Kreese. Daniel was repeatedly pursued by the antagonist from Karate Kid 3 in order to beat the crap out of him and even strike his friend Jessica. Daniel might have defeated him sooner if he hadn't been such a hothead, but because he was, it ultimately resulted in his defeat and the demise of Kreese's first Cobra Kai. Given Sean Kanan's teasers, it's possible that we'll see him again in a later season. Next up, Ned Randall. Being a bully is one thing, but being a full-on creep is quite another. In The Next Karate Kid, Ned Randall wasn't mean to Julie Pierce until she turned down his advances. He afterwards turned into a crazy guy and unnecessarily got her expelled from school. It's still horrible, even though smashing up Eric's car and beating him to death because he went to the dance with Julie was much worse. Even while Ned does eventually turn on Colonel Dugan, it doesn't really make up for the villain's wrongdoings in The Next Karate Kid. Another well-known villain from the Karate Kid world is Colonel Dugan. There are several grown-ups in the Karate Kid who shouldn't be around impressionable teenagers, but one of them is especially bad because he genuinely looks after kids at a high school. In The Next Karate Kid, Colonel Dugan made life extremely difficult for Eric McGowan and Julie Pierce to the point that he attempted to have Eric killed after losing a deadly duel. The villain in The Karate Kid was obviously insane, but Miyagi took care of him in a flash, putting him down a bit on the list. And finally, the OG Cobra Kai kids. You can't argue that Johnny Lawrence's Cobra Kai group merits recognition among the Karate Kid baddies. Having said that, none of them appeared to have acted independently or without Kreese or Johnny's guidance. For the most part, they were just followers beating up a single child. That isn't exactly vicious, and some could even say it's cowardly. When the current Cobra Kai kids assault, at least they go up against some Miyagi-Do pupils. These guys ought to be rated lower because they didn't try to take on Daniel alone. And there you have it, everything you need to know about Cobra Kai and some of the top villains ranked. Now make sure to let us know your thoughts down below and if you agreed with our picks. And as always, thanks for watching.